Frank Part 4. Author, Unal Aida. As soon as Frank is out the door, he stops and lights a cigarette with relish. After taking a few deep drags on his cigarette, inhaling the smoke completely each time, he takes a few steps, looking at his watch. It's quite late, not to say the middle of the night, but that's Frank's time of day anyway. At night, amidst the dark and smelly alleys, he feels particularly comfortable. And the darkness has another advantage. Not only are there significantly fewer people around, but even fewer people look at him strangely. He's certainly not blessed with intoxicating beauty, but his entire appearance doesn't inspire any confidence and comes across as unsympathetic. But Frank is actually completely indifferent to that sort of thing anyway. He just doesn't like people in general, and even less so around him. So he continues on, in the direction of his city's red light district. The city where people run back and forth like ants during the day. During the day they pass each other, as unimpressed as they are, apathetic. Hardly anyone notices anyone else, unless they have to communicate with someone for some reason or other. The city where everyone looks at each other politely with shining eyes, full of expectations, and crawls into your every hole, without even being above the most base thing. As long as you hope for something from the other person. It is truly remarkable how nice and accommodating, exceedingly polite people can be to each other when they have mutual expectations, and how cold and judgmental these same expectations can be towards others when they expect nothing from them. Those who were just crawling up their big fat asses full of expectations suddenly not only no longer look at their fellow human beings, but can't get far enough away from them. They don't even have a damned gesture of politeness left for each other, like a brief nod, as if each of them was suffering from a contagious disease that would kill the other instantly. They shy away from getting close. They don't even deign to give each other a simple glance, yet they remain convinced that they are absolutely good people. Pathetic idiots who don't understand anything. It's probably true that the more a person has, the less they have to give to their fellow human beings. And when night falls over the city, they show their true colours. When the slimy, expectant glances give way to contemptuous, disgusting looks, Frank's time has come. Because you don't go out at night unless you absolutely have to, or you're looking for your next cocaine fix, unless, like quite a few, you're looking for the pussy or the arsehole they can't get at home. And that's why Frank is out tonight too. He walks through the dark streets to the shady corners of the city, looking for a beautiful hooker who will give him a good time tonight. He doesn't have to look long, because he not only knows where the hookers hang out at night, but also where they look for customers, or as they say, for Johns. From a distance he has already spotted someone he wants to take with him today and fuck properly when he feels something dark flying over him. There is nothing and no one to be seen, but Frank senses this dark aura, and it just occurs to him that his work hours have begun and that there will be no hot fuck tonight. These are the moments when Frank gets particularly angry. There is nothing he hates more than circumstances that ruin a fuck for him. Angrily, he throws away the cigarette that was already useless and was about to burn his lips. Yes, when Frank is so close to so many pussies, his ability to think deteriorates considerably. But tonight he has to hold back his urges to a standstill, and he hates it. Annoyed, he takes a taxi and drives to a huge old castle. There is a party going on for special guests, a very special party for people who are as far removed from the everyday life of an ordinary person as an ant is from the moon. Frank passes the many guards unhindered and walks past them into the castle. Although the castle doesn't look particularly inviting from the outside, and in some places even seems dilapidated, the interior is a completely different story. Everything is made of the finest and most valuable materials. Even the banisters on the stairs seem to be made of real gold. Apparently not even the sheikhs have anything like that, even though they usually have their toilets plated with gold. Frank looks at all the guests, unnoticed by the crowd. They are figures who couldn't be colder or more repulsive, But all the guests wear masks, so no one can really recognize their true identities. These aren't just lawyers, doctors, executives of some damn corporations and the like. The ranks of these people start with politicians at the highest levels of society, and they form the lowest rung of this gathering. Frank can see all their faces, despite their masks and their fanciful disguises. If it were up to him, he would cut off all of them right here, right now, and simply leave. But he can't, he's not allowed to. He too has to follow the rules, and sometimes following the rules is harder than simply throwing them overboard and raging like a wild bull. Rampaging through their ranks like a vicious berserker, leaving behind a multitude of severed body parts and limbs, is more tempting to Frank than the hottest pussy of the night. Bathing in these people's blood and having a lot of fun is so incredibly hot, but he's not allowed to do as he pleases. He joins the ranks of those who are now ordered to form a circle by a fat man who looks like he's in charge. They all stand in a circle. Then another man is led into the circle. When he reaches the middle of the circle, his mask is removed, and he looks around, curious and somewhat uncertain, at all the people standing around him. He has to undergo various strange rites, in which he is sometimes worshipped and sometimes humiliated. Afterwards, he is ordered to kneel on the low table like a dog. He does as he is told, and suddenly one of the men standing in front of him lifts his robe, takes out his cock, and puts it in the man's mouth. Now he has to suck the cock of the man he doesn't know. Uncertain and extremely shy, he does what's expected. No sooner has he started sucking the cock in his mouth than someone sticks his cock up his exposed ass from behind. At first he flinches and immediately bends forward, but the guy behind him, who just rammed his cock up his ass, puts a leash around his neck from behind and pulls him back towards him. It's clear to see that the poor fool is feeling less pleasure than pain, but he brought this on himself, and that's why he's getting fucked from the front in the mouth as well as from behind in the arse. And as if that weren't enough, several women happily jump onto the table and piss all over him, while he's being humiliated from all directions and in all his holes. It takes a while until everyone has had enough, and while he gets a full load in his mouth, the other one pulls his cock out of his ass, hastily rushes forward and squirts his full load right in his ugly face. Some of the women smear all the cum on his face and stuff the rest in his mouth. At the end, a mussed woman leads a small child into the center of the ring and places it on an altar in front of the unmasked and now completely naked man. The child is still an infant. The man is handed a dagger with which he is to kill the child. He is to slit open its chest and remove its still young heart. At first he trembles and appears extremely uncertain, but it doesn't take long before he casts aside all his fears and inhibitions and relishes slitting open the baby's tiny chest, only to shortly thereafter remove the heart of such a small, yet sentient and crying being while it is still alive. No sooner has he removed the little infant's heart than he holds it up like a trophy, and the crowd goes wild and celebrates. Frank can't bear to watch this any longer, because he feels he can't bear it any longer without slaughtering all these masked people on the spot in a frenzy of hatred and contempt. He moves away from the circle while some of them drink the little child's blood from a golden chalice, and others make love to whoever comes along. Frank leaves the hall and goes down a corridor where there are cages. There are lots of small children in them, from infants to teenagers. They all look up silent, frightened, and equally apathetic, from where they hear the roars of all the happy people as he slowly walks past them. He is aware of who they are and what awaits them. In this place he feels closer to true evil than at almost any other time. He continues walking and enters another room through a massive door. There, someone is attacking a middle-aged young man who is tied to a chair and has to watch as he is tortured by this wanker. The wanker seems to be getting off on what he is doing to the young man, who can't even scream because his mouth is also taped shut. Frank takes a chair and sits down next to the skinny man with glasses, who is busy sticking some thin rods into the young man's knees and looks as if he is about to come. And only at this moment do the two realize Frank's presence. Frank has now removed his veil of invisibility. Extremely frightened and scared, the scrawny man lets go of everything in his hands and is about to get up and flee, when Frank stops him by placing his hand on his shoulder and politely asks him not to be so unfriendly and to please stay seated a little longer. The man looks at Frank, irritated, and asks him in a shaky voice who he is and how he got in here. But Frank doesn't react to him. Instead, he takes away all the young man's suffering and pain by closing his eyes and lowering his head. Frank has just released the young man from all his suffering, and he breathes out one last time and then collapses. Frank's eyes are now glowing. The thin man seems to be held to his chair by invisible shackles. He can no longer move. His eyes are the only thing he can still control, and not even those completely, because they race in all possible directions, and in them you can easily see the incredible fear of this thin monster.
You know, I don't like people like you. I mean, it's one thing to run someone over in an accident or something. Causing someone's death when you didn't mean to, like in a bad accident, is one thing. Even knowingly shooting someone in war because otherwise they'll kill you is another thing in itself. But torturing someone, inflicting excruciating pain, and getting aroused while doing it is something else entirely. Shut up. Don't bullshit me. I know the deal between your kind and evil. No, don't worry, I won't hurt you. Not yet anyway, but I'm thinking very carefully about what I'm going to do to you. You know, I know evil in many forms, and almost all of them have some reason for being the way they are. Some of them can even be understood, or at least somewhat, or somehow, or something. Do you know Lily? I mean Lilith? You definitely know her, right? Come on, don't look so stupid. That was the first woman, even before Eve. The woman who saw herself as Adam's equal. Do you know her true story? No? Fine. Then let me enlighten you. She didn't want to let Adam take advantage of her. She wanted to be his equal. She refused to let him fuck her whenever his cock wanted. Adam disliked that so much that he constantly complained to his damned boss. He always thought he was complaining to the boss, when in reality he was just venting his anger to the devil himself. Anyway, you probably don't know her true story, nor are you interested in it. But if you do, I recommend you read up on her beyond the usual historical accounts. In any case, I admire her greatly, and her story is truly fascinating. But anyway, let's get to the point. I've never understood guys like you. Really. I mean, it's one thing to accept the death of others because you want to achieve something, when others are indifferent and meaningless to you. But how messed up does someone have to be to do what you do voluntarily and get off on it? But I have to admit, you really leave me speechless. And you show me a face I really don't get to see every day. It's a shame. I would have loved to take some more time for you and play with you a bit more, but unfortunately I have to go now. But before I go, one more thing. Something much worse awaits you than you can even imagine in your broken brain. And surprise, you play the leading role. It's a shame, a real shame that I can't make more time for you. I have so many wonderful ideas about how we could spend some more time together. But unfortunately, I have to go now, and your death here and now will be far too good. Far too gentle, but you can look forward to what awaits you on the other side. Now don't look so stupid. Or did you really think your prince could save you from the punishments that await you? Now you really do look even crazier than you look. Before I go and you shit yourself on your chair and die a miserable death, one more thing. You don't make deals with evil that leave you better off at the end than before. Pretty shitty, isn't it, to be convinced all your life that you believe in something like a god, but at the end you have to realize that all you have done all these years is worship the devil.
Frank stands up and looks at him one last time, full of contempt and disgust, before he leaves. And as Frank leaves the room, he first tries to get up from his chair, but he fails. He seems to be bound to the chair by an invisible force from which he cannot free himself. His eyes are now wide open, as if he sees something others cannot see, and he dies a slow and horrific death. Frank goes into a room where an elderly man is sitting. He speaks to him and asks how he is.
Hello, old man, how are you?
Startled, he turns around and looks around the room. When he still can't see Frank, he wants to know who's there. Frank watches him for a few moments, during which the old man assumes he's been visited by someone else entirely. At first, he breathes a sigh of relief and asks if this is the moment he has to leave. It's clear that he's full of expectations, but when Frank reveals himself, he looks as irritated as he is quite disappointed and immediately wants to know who he is. Frank first calms him down a bit and takes a few strawberries from a small bowl. Presumably, it's Frank's appearance that makes the old man assume he's dealing with a simple thief.
Oh, I see. You're a burglar, a thief. Well, I must confess, I'm speechless, honestly. How did such a bum manage to break into my property without being seen and arrested? Perhaps I have a job for you. By the way, enjoy the strawberries. This small bowl in front of you, weighing maybe just 100 grams, costs $5,000.
Frank immediately spits the bitten strawberry out of his mouth and demands to know how such a price can be arrived at.
Are you serious, really? Tell me, how can you justify such a price? I mean, if you told me these were hand-grown and all, I could accept them costing 2 or even 3 times as much as regular strawberries, but this shit doesn't even taste that different. How does such a price come about? And who's willing to pay such a price for such a small bowl?
The old man looks visibly amused and tells Frank the price.
Look, good man. I am, let's say, somewhat wealthier than ordinary rich people, if I may call them that. What I want to tell you is that I'm not just rich or wealthy, but really very wealthy. My wealth amounts to little more than the few hundred billion that makes others seem so rich. And now my question to you, have you ever seen people like me shopping in a supermarket? No, of course not. We don't buy all that crap that ordinary people stuff down their throats. These are all contaminated products. Poison for humans, if you will. Whether it's food, personal care products like toothpaste, or simply clothing, it doesn't matter. People like me would never use such products. But that in turn means that we have to be willing to pay a correspondingly higher price for what we need and use, let's say. And that's how the price of this bowl of strawberries comes about.
I see. Even though you shit out of the same hole as everyone else, you still think you're better than everyone else? That's okay. Really, I don't have a problem with that. But I do have a problem with what you keep in your closet.
The man now looks at Frank with concern and makes him a simple offer. He offers to give him a small sum of several thousand euros. If he agrees and accepts it, he assures Frank that he can leave without being bothered, just as if this incident, this small break-in into his study, had never happened. But he falsely assumes that Frank is actually a burglar and only interested in money, without having any idea why Frank is really here, and certainly without even remotely imagining who Frank really is.
If I were here for what you assume I am here for, your offer would certainly be very tempting. Although I realize I would only enjoy your dirty money until I left the room and your people descended upon me. My suggestion, why don't we just skip all this nonsense and get down to business? I see your curiosity in your eyes. Okay, let's get down to business. You now realize that I managed to get past all your guards and security systems completely unnoticed. Since you are such an enviably intelligent person, it should be clear to you that I'm also special in some ways. I may not be as attractive, not as wealthy, and certainly not as smart as you. But I am good at something too. Not to say very good. All your motion sensors, security doors, and all that stuff didn't stop me from breaking into your office. And even though I'm just in this room for the first time, I know exactly what's in your closets that hide everything. Look, I'm not as educated as you and certainly don't have even a hint of your manners. I'm one of those you consider useful filth. People who keep such august minds like yourselves shitting just because we're useful to them in one way or another. I suppose I should be grateful for your kindness in allowing me to continue living. I appreciate your endless kindness and mercy, I suppose. But to finally get to the point, this isn't about theft. Not about the many pictures and films you keep in your cupboards. I mean the interesting films in which the most wonderful people of our time can be seen in such filthy pictures, raping or even killing small children. I know all your tricks and methods. You promise anyone anything, as long as these people are of some use to you. Whether they're politicians, scientists, people from the financial world, and God knows where else. I know how you hoist these people into certain positions, by what means, and how you get these people to shape world events according to your wishes. And I tell you quite clearly, I don't give a damn about any of that. I'm not here to steal money, nor any of these pictures and videos, rest assured. I'm not a reporter or anything like that who wants to bring all this to light. Although just last week I visited a scientist whom you severely harassed because he refused to do what you asked. You ensured that pornographic content was uploaded to his computer, and now he has to answer to the world public for his alleged pedophilia. I suspect he should consider himself happier in this situation than the poor bastard whose house you recently set on fire, while he and his entire family were terribly banished there. So there are always people even you can't buy. And even if their possibilities for making the lives of those who defy their will a terrible hell are almost endless, there are still things that even people like their kind cannot control. And one of these things, to stick with what others like me are to people like you, one of these things now stands before you in the person of your humble self. Have no fear, I admire you. Honestly, I really do. I mean, you're one of those people who install systems all over the world, whether they call themselves democratic, social, religious, or whatever, it doesn't matter. They are all systems that, in one way or another, fulfill two very specific things. The first is their nature to force all people to participate in the injustice in this world, as long as they have even a little more than they absolutely need to survive. The second is their nature to enslave people. Simply put, there is no way to live in any society on this earth without consciously accepting these two elementary conditions, and for that, you have my admiration. Your achievement is that you have cemented the same conditions everywhere in the world into the foundations of every society and culture to such an extent that no participation in civilized life is possible without simultaneously increasing evil. Fortunately for you, it is not the job of people to fight evil. The real job of us, the poor, the useless filth you see, the mere idiots, is simply not to fight evil, nor to do good, but rather refusing to contribute to the bad. And that's where my respect for people like you begins, because you make it virtually impossible for anyone to fulfill their actual job. With all these broken systems, you make it virtually impossible for even the most good-natured people to fulfill the meaning of life. Because the meaning of life is to give life meaning, and the best way to do that is to stop adding to the evil in this world. But you're making that virtually impossible. Simply buying a cell phone, a computer, a television, or even a cheap coffee maker makes you complicit in the injustice of this world. Because somewhere else in the world someone is paying the price. By now it should be clear to you that I've seen through you. I know your secrets. Not only that, I know you better than you know yourself. No bullshit, honestly. And I also know about your agreement with the devil himself. Now you're amazed, aren't you? Come on, admit it. I really surprised you, didn't I? Let me put it this way. Your oh-so-great Satan is a fart. Honestly, he can't do anything. He makes you offers he can't possibly fulfill, but demand your souls immediately if you fail to fulfill even one point of your agreement. You don't believe me? Okay, then I'll prove it to you. One of the most important points of your agreement is immortality. He promises you immortality as long as you serve him. But why do you still age and die? Well, does light become? Or has Satan actually just blinded you and thus deceived you? Oh, so you're thinking I have no idea. Well, I have to disappoint you there too. I know all the details of your contracts. And yes, I also know that you aren't actually immortal and that you age and die just like all ordinary people. The difference is that you are constantly being reborn, so the supposed immortality that Satan promises you isn't actual immortality, but rather a constant rebirth. But you aren't simply born somewhere in the middle of nowhere into some poor family that is penniless and constantly struggling to survive. Yes, I know exactly how it all works in detail, because even your Satan can't prevent death. You aren't immortal. At this point, I'd like to let you in on a little secret. I know death. I mean, I really know it, and I know it personally. Satan has always wanted nothing more than to win death over to his side, and no matter what he's tried, he hasn't succeeded and never will. But as long as you're reborn again and again, and each time you're extremely wealthy, successful, famous, influential, and so on, everything's fine for you, right? But that's exactly not the case. You too will have to atone for all your transgressions when the time comes. I bet Satan didn't mention that fact, did he? Well, no matter how astonished and stupid you look at it, the fact is that you too will have to atone for all your sins and transgressions. Well, no one makes a deal with the devil that leaves them better off afterward than before. Shit, right? And your agreement with Satan, to put it bluntly, brings you nothing but more time and opportunities to burden yourself with guilt. And people like you make ample use of this opportunity, and unfortunately for you, that's where I come in. What Satan doesn't tell you is the fact that he has absolutely no power here. And everything he can do here in our world, he can only do indirectly. And that's precisely why he uses people like you. Because only through people like you can he influence our world. But because there are far too many like you, the balance threatens to tip. So your beloved Satan has gone too far. It's one thing to be a bad person and to pay for that existence when the time comes, but quite another when you have to be bad simply to live. When the perversion of existence reaches a point where you can't even simply stay alive without taking something from others, without becoming complicit in the suffering of others somewhere else in the world, a point has been reached where the bad threatens to outweigh the good. And this is where, ta-ta, I come in. I am sent to maintain the balance. And my job is to make people like you realize the nullity of their agreements with Satan. But here I have to admit, as shitty as life can often be, it is always extremely satisfying. Almost better than sex to see the stupid faces of the characters once they realize it all. And you look so damn stupid right now. What joy you give me. So that's it for you and your oh-so-great contract with evil.
Frank instructs him to sit in the expensive and inviting chair. Although the man resists, he still can't stop himself and sits down as if by remote control. He is breathing very rapidly and briefly, and his desperation, as well as his seemingly endless fear, is written all over his face. He begs Frank, begging him to give him everything if only he'll stop.
There's nothing you can give me that has any value, so don't try to make me any stupid offers. You'll now get what you've given others. I'll make sure of that. But don't worry, I'll make plenty of time for you. Besides, I haven't forgotten that I didn't get to fuck today because of you. That alone is bad enough. Everything you've done to others, everything you've caused them, is irrelevant to me. I couldn't give a damn about them. I would have done what I'm about to do to you anyway, and for nothing. But the fact that you've kept me away from a hot, wet, and delicious pussy today, my dear, justifies in my eyes everything and much more that I'm about to do to you. Now sit back, take a few deep breaths and let yourself go. There's nothing you can do anyway, and you'll now have to endure what I'm about to do to you. Damn, I'm excited. I'm telling you, it's so hot to be able to do whatever you want with wankers like you. Dude, the thought alone is almost hotter than a fucking wild fuck.
Frank leans toward him, his eyes literally shining with joy at what is about to happen. End of part 4.